you have to be a really good writer and you have to be using as little words as possible, but doing it in such a way that everything is packed with value.
Okay, you mentioned Storybrand a few times now. Let's talk about that briefly. I know a lot of companies struggle to talk about what they do. And a lot of companies waste a ton of money on marketing, talking about what they do the wrong way.
Yeah.
Tell us what Storybrand is.
So it's a 7-part framework created by a guy named Donald Miller in Nashville. And what it does is it takes the 7 elements of story that are, universal around movies like Indiana Jones, or
Star Wars, Karate Kid.
Yes. Yeah. Well, pretty much all of them, right? We can go through and just
95% of movies all follow this 7-part framework.
Yeah, and I'm going to oversimplify it here, right?
Sure.
I'm not going to hit all 7, but I don't want to ruin it for everybody. But you've got a character who encounters a problem, who meets a guide, and then ultimately that's going to end in success or failure. So what you're doing is you're using this framework, or I use this framework for our clients in order to clarify their message so that they're not just talking about themselves, but they're positioning themselves as a solution to a problem. And not only that, but they're positioning themselves as a guide. So when people experience that issue, they're going to come to this company or client of ours for that solution to that problem. So it's very important in your messaging, because if you just talk about how awesome you are, that wireframe for that guy, he's awesome, dude. He's actually one of probably the best executive coaches out there. But on his wireframe, he just talks about himself just the whole time.
He's positioning himself as the hero in the client's journey.
Yes.
And ultimately, that's the big mistake that companies make, is that they don't recognize their role is not to be the hero. Their role is to be the guide.
Yes.
And your customer, your client, they're the hero, and you're there to help guide them on their journey. So when you're thinking through that in the context of social, how do you position what you're saying? I know, because is it good to stick to short and sweet, or is it, what's your philosophy around that when you're posting with that Storybrand mindset?
If you can think of yourself as the guide, okay? So I think it's very interesting, because I've seen our Slack channels with other Storybrand people. They can be a little intense on this issue. I don't think we need to overthink it. I think if you can just see yourself as the person who's there to serve other people, right? The guide, you help the hero win the day. That might look like talking about yourself, right?
Yeah.
I see my wife and I, we share a family Instagram account, and all the people that she follows, like a lot of mom bloggers, they talk about themselves all day, but they do it in such a way where I'm guessing my wife is able to see herself in that story. So they're talking about their experience, but it's taking my wife, supposedly, I haven't asked her about this, but I assume it's taking her through this journey as she reads about this mom who's experiencing this thing with her kid and how that's similar to what we're experiencing with our son, whatever. And so even though it's talking about that person, they're talking about themselves, they're really there serving other people. Right. So there's that aspect of it, right? You can actually talk about yourself. I think that's fine. But if you can frame it in a way that I want other people to see themselves in my story, and it's not really about me, even though I'm talking about me, it's fine. The other side that I really like is providing unique value. So if I see myself as the guide in the marketing business space, entrepreneurship, whatever, I can then provide people tips and resources, whatever, on that. And that can be my strategy. Now, I do think that it's a bit overcrowded on Instagram right now. And there's plenty of people who have graphics that are really interesting that I even get caught up in, like Jeff Bezos' net worth or whatever. So there's an opportunity for that. But I definitely think whatever that thing is relative to your craft, what can you uniquely bring there, bring people value in regards to Storybrand? That's organic social. Let's go to paid social just for a second, if you would. So as we look at Storybrand there, it's incredibly important that we use as few words as possible and we communicate very clearly. Okay. And so that's another Storybrand value, right? It's like the less words that you use, the better. And almost that
clarity is critical.
Yes. And if you confuse people, you're going to lose. And the other idea is that the more calories that you ask for somebody to burn, the less likely they are to continue reading and actually pay attention to what you offer. That's not to say that you can't.
That goes back to why YouTube videos are like short and like cutting all the time. You're just constantly trying to maintain engagement visually. Yes. And so when it comes to words, you're trying to be short, concise, intentional. Yeah.
And there is a opportunity to write really long Instagram microblogs, but I think you have to be a really good writer and you have to be using as little words as possible, but doing it in such a way that everything is packed with value. So there's that thought. But when we go to paid social, using as little words as possible, communicating as much value as possible. And what I mean by that is, what problem do you solve? How is my life going to be better on the other side of buying your product or services? Visually, either through photo or video, we want to show what success looks like. We also want to let people know what's at risk if they don't buy our products or services. And also, how are you uniquely positioned to solve that problem as a company, for them? So in ads, you can run countless variations. So we could take the 7 parts of the Storybrand brand script. I could pull one part from each part of that script, and then I could put each one of those things in the ad. And this is not the ultimatum. This is not saying we have to do it. This is just an idea. You could pull each one and then just put that in a different ad. You could also do a one-liner in the Storybrand world. It's basically like you're introducing a problem, a solution, and what success looks like. So you could have a longer format of copy in addition to creatively expressing what success looks like for the customer and how they're using your products or services. And then put all those into a bigger marketing strategy, put them into a good campaign that's targeted well and it's got the right objectives, the right timing, all that jazz. So imagine we upload all of this creative into Facebook, right? We've got the right strategy, we've got the right targeting, it's part of a bigger marketing strategy. And then what happens is that we can trust Facebook to show the right ad at the right time to the right people in order to get the results that we're asking from it.
Fascinating. We could talk about this for days, obviously. For the person watching, business owner watching, going, man, this is, obviously it's important, but my head's hurting and I don't even know, I don't have time for all that. That's not my core competency. All this stuff came out after I started my company or whatever, or it's just not what I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
And they want to outsource or hire that person or team member to take care of this.
You're in a tough spot because if you're that person, you're probably uneducated, right? And I don't mean that in a bad way. You're probably really educated. Maybe you got a bachelor's degree.
You just don't know about social media.
Yes.
Yeah, totally.
Which is why you want to hire somebody, which is the right decision.
And let's be clear. I mean, all of this is really new. This is not something that has been around as long as, copywriting or whatever. I mean, you've got this technology, this capability that's really like, 10 years, really before since.
So I just say that because I think that there are business owners who have come to us before they work with us, and they are burned. And somebody promised them something that they couldn't deliver on. And they had an idea that this is the type of person that they needed to hire. They needed to hire a social media manager to grow their company. And a social media manager is important, okay? But they didn't have anybody to speak into their overall marketing strategy, an expert on that. And so they left the non-expert, the business owner who is amazing at their craft,
right?
But they're not an expert in marketing strategy. They're just picking random things. And so sometimes either an agency or a freelancer will agree, oh yeah, we can offer that service for you. Absolutely. Which is fine. It's a valid thing. If somebody's really good at their craft, that's amazing. But I think that if you don't understand how that fits in the bigger picture, you're going to waste a lot of money on that.
Yeah.
So I guess I just feel for the business owner, and I also feel for them because it's really hard for them to decide or figure out who's really good at this and who's not. And if I could, I'm going to give you an example. So when, the company that we just acquired, right, the virtual assistant company,
sure.
Part of the issue that we're having is that they were over promising on stuff that they couldn't deliver in. A lot of our team is in the Philippines, which is fine. And a lot of them speak really good English and been working with American companies for 10 years. But there's not only that language barrier sometimes, but they're also virtual assistants. They are not ad specialists. They're not marketing specialists. And yet they're doing that and offering those as a service. So we were we're kind of, I'd say freaking out, but we're having to make a distinction. Hey, we do not offer this. We have current clients, future clients. We do not offer this because we are a virtual assistant company. This is the services we offer. It's within our scope. But average Joe out there probably ran into the company before this and hired them to do it, and then was exceptionally disappointed and frustrated, and they wasted a lot of money on it. So who you should look for is somebody who has proven results, okay? They should be able to show you a track record in the ad space. I can talk about the organic in a second, but in the ad space, they should be able to show you a direct return on investment. Don't get caught up in clicks. Clicks are important, but if somebody's selling you clicks, it really doesn't matter because what you're really concerned with is growing your company.
Conversion, yeah.
Yeah. So that ROI, like I mentioned, that's really important. They should be able to literally show you, pull you into an ad account that they have, show you exactly how they're making other people money and how they're going to do it for your company.
Yeah.
If you're looking for an ad specialist. I would start with somebody who's understands marketing strategy and make sure that you have a good marketing strategy. Everything's going to be cohesive. You can pick and pull different people in for different projects. And then lastly, there's organic social. And there's kind of two sides depending on the type of company that you are. If you're smaller, probably less than 5 to 10 people, you're only going to have like one organic social person. And I don't think that the person who's doing organic social should necessarily do the paid. It's okay if they try to do that just to get, boots on the ground and get some momentum and, force there. But I think that the skill set that the organic social person has is more of that creative type.
Right.
And if you can, what's even better is if you hire a creative type who can just document, who can real-time story tell, they like copyright. Those are all great qualifications for that person. And then one day when you're big enough, you hire somebody to just do community management. So they can
community management. Okay. So they're the ones who are managing all the comments, all the requests or whatnot.
Yes.
Questions.
And that matters more for companies that have 40,000 followers or more.
Yeah.
Because that is a full-time job sometimes.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And you can combine that with your support email box or something like that. But that's how I delineate it. Is I would start with the marketing strategist, but if you're getting technical with social media, I would look at an ad specialist or advertising specialist who has results that you can see, and don't look at screenshots like just generic screenshots. Those matter, and they're probably not lying. You hope the person's not lying. But you never know, And then there's the organic strategy. Really, they should just be a good copywriter and also have an eye for aesthetics. That's really important. I was going to say,
what about design, So
yes. So I hired somebody at a job I was at like a while ago, and they were really good at photography and graphic design. And those were two big strengths that they brought to the table for organic social. They don't have to have those. You could work with freelancers as long as they have the eye for the aesthetics, and they could say, oh, that's not it, or here's a mood board of what I'm looking for. You could subcontract that out to somebody else. So you just want somebody, for pretty much most of these roles, you want someone who understands how this fits in the bigger picture and has an idea of where we're going in the future, or just, it doesn't have to be the perfect idea, but they have some idea where they're going. And then you could subcontract out these little nuts and bolts. Like you say that person who's doing social media is not the best at video, but a video person. Bring a video person in. It's totally fine.
Okay.